I want to thank Ruben for bringing you today's video via his support on Patreon. Alela Cunning Conqueror versus Kruphix, Edgar Markov and Y'shtola. We've got our colours. It's a pretty heavy hand, but Bitter Blossom should give us a decent advantage in the early game, so we'll just play this and hope. I'm actually going to keep Notorious Throng on top of the library because my assumption at the moment is it's Bitter Blossom into pretty much nothing for a few turns, get down Alela, and then maybe we can deal a lot of damage and get an extra turn, make even more Faeries, and well, hopefully get something done this game. Mystic Remora for Y'shtola. This is a bracket 4 game, by the way. The first creature, Llanowar Loam Speaker for the Kruphix deck, and we're going to get the Y'shtola player a card with the Mystic Remora. Can't afford the 4 mana tax. Decides to pay in order to keep the enchantment for another turn cycle. Cruel Celebrant for the Vampire player, an Aristocrat that enters with a token. Wood Elves, a little bit of land ramp for the Simic player. We get our first Faerie from the enchantment, and well, another expensive creature, a Titan of Lityara. I think we're set up for the late game, but I don't think we're going to do much in the meantime, so hold up, run away together. I doubt we'll use it, but at least we're online to get down our commander next turn. Noteworthy that the Esper player did miss a land drop last turn, so they literally only had a 1 lander, simply because of the Mystic Remora. They were expecting that to get them into more lands, which apparently it has. Okay, must have had a Sol Ring in the opener as well. And takes that into a Mana Vault. Well, we can see why he kept the 1 lander now. Followed up by a Demonic Tutor and a Mox Opal. This is the Metalcraft one, so that can tap for mana. Grim Monolith. Tap for 3, untap for 4. And Smothering Tithe. So I think it's safe to say that his mana is well and truly fixed, although he's down to 2 cards in hand. We don't know what he tutored for though. Maybe he'll be able to refill. A sack outlet on an enchantment for the Vampire player. Regenerate a creature if you sacrifice a creature. And as they should, both vampires swinging into the left, we should all be swinging in over here at the archenemy at this point. Gilded Lotus will fix the blue mana of the Simic player. He's only fetching out green basics at the moment. Taps for green, so maybe it is just a mono green deck. And there we see Crushing Canopy. Destroys a creature with flying or an enchantment, goes after the Smothering Tithe right away, which was one of his means of fixing his colours, so only got 2 treasure out of that thing, but still has all his rocks available. Didn't swing in with his creatures for some reason. A Banner of Kinship for all these tokens, so it was good to get down Bitter Blossom as early as we did. We're going to need a land to get that down though. Manages to get down his Esper commander, and there we see a Windfall. We've got some decent cards here, but we're just struggling on mana, so I'm not really against this. We're losing a lot of good stuff though for the late game, so hopefully we've got enough left in the deck. The worst bit of course is that he's refilling his hand. At least the Smothering Tithe was dealt with before this, otherwise he would have made 1,000,000 mana. We were still a fair ways from getting into more mana, but there we have Ancient Tomb and the Signet. I have no idea what that is supposed to be. Indestructible. Oh, it's the 1 ring. Okay. Taps that down to draw another card straight away. Managed to draw Kruphix into not only an island, but a Sol Ring as well. Curiously, the Edgar Markov player had a Fracture in hand that he discarded to the wheel, and he didn't decide to put that on Sol Ring or the Mox Opal or anything. The Esper player just countered the Sol Ring with a mental misstep, by the way. And Kruphix God of Horizons enters after that. Decides against floating mana and fixes his colours further with a Clue Stone. We go down to 34 with the token. Verdant Catacombs gonna lose us a bit more life, as is the Ancient Tomb. We could tap both down for black with the Urborg though. If we get down Ancient Tomb, we'll have 2 mana held up for an instant speed Arcane Signet on the turn after the High Fae Trickster, and that will obviously maximise the triggers that we can get with this for now, so I think that's what we're looking at doing this turn. I'm just going to swing everything into the left. We could maximise the amount of golds that we get, but I just want to go after this guy at the moment because he's obviously built a really strong deck. This one is more of a bracket 3 list with lots of game changers in it, which sounds weird, but it isn't full of Moxons and things like that, which maybe it could be. I don't think I have Force of Will and stuff like that. And we do want to be casting spells on opponents' turns, so we'll make use of the High Fae Trickster for now. That's one thing I didn't play around, the fact that our opponent lost 4 life there, so I did get to draw a card. Maybe should have sent 1 token in elsewhere, but Magic Online players are very, very cagey, and even swinging in a 1/1 token towards them can put the fear of God in them. But yeah, probably should have taken 1 token in elsewhere. There's an Ancient Tomb over here as well now. Oh, there's a Hullbreaker Horror, so he'll be able to just combo off straight away with the Soul Ring. So it looks like we're going to be using Withering Torment instead, assuming that we can land it. So Faerie Mastermind, and we'll see what he targets with the Hullbreaker Horror. He'd have to go for, yeah, the Mox Opal at this point, because he needs to constantly bounce and replay that infinitely. So we have to go Smothering or Withering Torment onto the Hullbreaker Horror. It does mean that we're not getting down the Trickster, unfortunately. Had I known that we'd be doing this, I'd obviously have played the Rhystic Study. We at least get a Faerie still though. And that does land. He still gets to bounce the Mox back to hand. So plays the Mox Opal, 4 cards in hand. And this thing's goaded, so it does have to turn in sideways. Goes at the vampire player. Oh, it has Vigilance, so making that attack wasn't really much of a downside anyway. A second card being drawn thanks to the One Rings, so there'll be a card drawn by the Mastermind as well. Reanimate is being used by the vamp player onto one of his own creatures, Drana and Linvala. A couple of mana has been floated by Crucifix, by the way, who has plenty of mana as is. But now this is in play. Activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated. We have ETBs, triggers, so not too worried about that. I'm not sure of the various combos that you can get going with this. Can currently tap it to add a mana of any colour. Captivating Vampire is going to be able to be activated straight away, but he'll have to tap down all his creatures to do it. Another player has lost 4 life this turn, so Y'shtola draws again. And it looks as though Crucifix is just holding up a heap of mana with 4 cards in hand. Can clearly do something at instant speed. Alright, stolen by the Fae. We definitely want to make a land drop, and then I think we are playing at instant speed as well. We can go High Fae Trickster, and then decide if we want to get down the Rhystic Study or Arcane Signet. We could get down Rhystic Study on Edgar Markov's turn, I suppose. I'm only going to go in with 3 tokens this time to the left, because then he only loses 3 life. I don't think he's going to block with this, but I want to goad him. We can take in a token to the right as well and try and goad this. Although actually I think in order to keep it from swinging in, he'll just turn a land into a creature and swing that in at us as punishment, so best just leave the other 2 players alone for now, I think. So we'll just goad his Faerie and pass the turn. Well, that's weird. He's matched our lands twice in a row here. First got down the Ancient Tomb and now a Verdant Catacombs. Y'shtola has Vigilance, as we noted before, so can turn into the right against a 3 toughness creature, and the Faerie goes in over there as well. A Sheoldred the Apocalypse is going to punish us for drawing, so maybe getting down the Rhystic Study isn't a good idea after all. And then a Deadly Rollick going straight onto the Drana and Linvala, which means he's going to have to activate this now if he wants to steal something. Likely he'll be able to do it next turn as well, but not to maximise the activations on this. That's the first trigger of a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater as well. And he gave him a good target with the Sheoldred. Might have done that on purpose to keep hold of his Faerie Mastermind. That's keeping cards in his hand. But Sheoldred now becoming a 4/5 Death Touch Vampire. Each of us are drained for 2 from the mana value 3 or greater card. And looks like the Angel is going down. It's noteworthy that he could have sacrificed Drana and Linvala to his sack outlet and just put a regeneration shield on anything, just for the sake of keeping this out of exile, as he clearly plays Reanimation. Go through to the end step. I think Y'shtola is going to draw a card here. It is. So there's no harm in us going for the Ancient Tomb. And I will play the High Fae Trickster here. Upon drawing that card, now Sheoldred is going to have Y'shtola lose a life, or a couple of life. Keeping this guy's life total down is going to be imperative as the game progresses, I think. When do we get down Rhystic Study is the question. Are we going to do it on this player's turn? Because we do have to be very concerned with the Praetor at this point. He's going to gain a lot of life. This is a match made in heaven, the One Ring with decent burden counters on it and Sheoldred. Although a lot of mana being tapped by Crucifix now. Puts another burden counter and draws more with the One Ring while this is on the stack. Should really let this resolve even if you are about to gain a bunch of life. Faerie Mastermind continues to draw cards into that. Noteworthy that our Rhystic Study is going to feed into the Mastermind as well. But the Mastermind does at least knock them down to 20. Decided against attacking him for obvious reasons, thanks to this. But is getting down a Cordial Vampire, as that sees creatures die. Any creatures die at all, including our tokens. It'll be plus counters on his army. I'm thinking I'm going to get down the Study anyway, because we're not going to be able to counter anything. If our board gets wrathed or something, then so be it. But we just need to see more cards, even if it is into the Sheoldred. And we could always bounce it at instant speed with this, if we like. Veto Thorn of the Dusk Rose goes very well with gaining life into Sheoldred. Okay, sacrificing a token. Yeah, I'm guessing it was a token. And putting a regeneration shield on the Sheoldred, just doing this to get buffs with the Cordial Vampire. And there's Drain with the Cruel Celebrant as well. Gained a life from the Drain, so Veto makes the Simic player lose a life. But our opponent went straight through to the second main for some reason, so he could have made some attacks. He's got 2, 4, 6 and 8 vampires in play at the moment. Anyway, Y'shtola drawing a card again thanks to the life loss. I'll just go for Rhystic Study now. There's every chance that the tax is paid by the Simic player. So make ourselves another Faerie for playing at instant speed. Goes down to 17 from the draw on his commander. Yeah, playing that Sheoldred was a pretty bad move, I think. He's losing a lot of life to that. It would have been good to get some help from the vampire player, but maybe he doesn't want Y'shtola to go down himself so he can keep hold of this. It might be that we can try and get rid of Y'shtola and that gets rid of the Praetor. I'd be amazed if there isn't Eldrazi on the way with the Crucifix player. Y'shtola having each of us draw a card into Faerie Mastermind, so 3 of us lose 2 life and the vampire player will gain 2. Which works well, as we said, with the Veto. He'll be able to redirect a couple of damage. We drew into Polluted Delta. We don't have to crack these fetches, fortunately. Veto being pointed at us this time. Myojin of Seeing Winds enters with an indestructible counter, and then you can remove it to draw a card for each permanent you control, so you still got 7 floating mana. He'll be able to draw a massive amount of cards with that. See if he pays the tax into Rhystic Study. He does not, so allows us to draw. We're going to lose some more life, go down to half of our starting life total. And there is a Frantic Search, which is something free to cast on an opponent's turn. But again, we're going to lose 4 life to casting this thing. We've got a lot of threats at the table here. Decides to get rid of that indestructible counter. So goes from 4 cards all the way up to 18. And yeah, Sheoldred doing Sheoldred stuff. That's 14 cards. That means he loses 28 life here. So he's going to have to... yeah, I don't know what he does here. He's going to have to get rid of the triggers or this player before he goes down to the triggers to Sheoldred before they resolve. He's in Simic, so he might be able to gain a bunch of life at instant speed, but I wouldn't have thought so. But this guy has gone down to 9, so there's every chance that we can just take out the Y'shtola player next turn. And then, like we said, the legendary creature goes down with it. That does mean that we have to contend with Cat Vamp, but at least a couple of players will have gone down here. Not really sure what his plan was here with this. So just decides to scoop before taking the damage. Yeah, this is a typical mistake that players make on, well, not just Magic Online, but in Magic the Gathering as a whole, especially multiplayer casual settings like this. Obviously Commander is one such thing. They don't want to play their spells and their permanents into removal. So he was worried about playing his Hydras or whatever he had in hand into the Captivating Vampire. Oh, it just gets stolen. Well, he can only steal one thing at a time, so we all just need to play into it and then gang up on him or get rid of the Captivating Vampire. I mean, you can't just sit there and not play anything, because that's just playing into your opponent's hand. You do need to knowingly play your threats into something like this, and then you never know, an opponent might play something even scarier and you can get out from underneath it. But just sitting back and doing nothing rarely works. Well, there's our own Faerie Mastermind. I think the first thing we need to do is attempt to get rid of the Y'shtola player, and therefore Sheoldred. The thing is, we are going to have a swing back that we're concerned with. They can't block at least, but Captivating Vampire could interfere with our attacks and therefore keep their Sheoldred alive. Whatever. Just gonna do the best we can here. So that's 6, 7, 8 and 9. And then this definitely doesn't have reach or anything. He could have removal himself with Mox Opal, but he just goes for the highest power creature. We have to hold back blockers here, so let's just do it like that. I think we're likely going to be losing our High Fae Trickster anyway to the Captivating Vampire. It's likely the Vampire players to win because not only can he go wide on us, but he's got a decent amount of Drain available. And then the Drain is doubled up by Veto. He at least has to sacrifice his creatures in order to activate this thing, which is a Nombo with the Cat Vamp. Alright, decides to activate that thing now and steals the Y'shtola. I mean, if this thing's going down, I'm not sure why he's doing that, but we'll allow it. And yeah, this guy's getting salty that we're taking him out of the game. I don't know how we can say we're handing someone the game. He has no idea. We've got all our mana held up and he's got no idea what we've got in hand, so typical Magic Online player being arrogant. We have to get rid of Sheoldred at the end of the day. The fact that he's complaining in the chat does suggest that he doesn't have anything against us though. So there we go, take out the Sheoldred, and we've got some chump blockers left behind. So are we just holding up Stolen by the Fae and trying to make combat difficult for our opponent? If he wants to start swinging in at us, like I said, then Captivating Vampire is not going to be as good. So yeah, we're just playing at instant speed here, but I would be surprised if we're able to get out from underneath this. He's at 38 life, he does have 3 bird encounters on the one ring though. He keeps putting a bird encounter on it. He's gaining an additional bird encounter when he activates it, so he takes more life to this. You should really let the upkeep trigger resolve before you activate it again, but it's fine with me if he wants to take more damage. So he's up to 12 cards in hand at the upkeep and goes down to 34 instead of 35. Dark Ritual into the Rhystic Study, can draw us a card, gains some mana with that, gets us into another land. Diabolic Tutor. Maybe we could just try, and he keeps letting us draw with Rhystic Study, that's fine. We could try and just counter whatever it is that he gets into here, although we don't have any counters in hand. Not too likely that any Mardu cards would be uncounterable. If we could draw into Vampiric Tutor, I could go and grab the Cyclonic Rift, and that would be very helpful. A Chrome Mox, again, letting us draw. This is really good. Brazen Borrower is another bounce effect, and we can actually put it on the sack outlet if we want to. So that takes away Krul's Celebrant a little bit, as well as the Cordial Vampire. Underneath that he puts a Blood Artist, and then Exquisite Blood. Whenever we lose life, he gains that much life, and then whenever he gains life, we lose that much, so we need to get rid of Veto here. Let's draw first before we make any decisions. Another land. So in that case, I don't want to put too much life into Ancient Tomb at this point. Let's go Frantic Search first of all. And that triggers Alela for the first time. We could have gained a decent amount of mana from the Ancient Tomb, of course. Speaking of gaining mana, there's Mana Vault, Obira. That might dissuade them from swinging in towards us. Let's get rid of Fetch and a basic. Untap the 3 lands. We can do as much at instant speed as we like now because we don't have to maximise doing one thing on each player's turn. So do we just bounce the Exquisite Blood? I suppose they can sacrifice things at instant speed, can't they? So probably best not doing. Yeah, let's go for Stolen by the Fae, and we can bounce the Veto for now. So that will bounce that back to hand. We get some Faerie tokens, blue ones this time. But Exquisite Blood is still in play, so we need to decide. Could get down Arcane Signet into the Petty Theft in order to bounce this thing. If he swings in, then yeah, it might be a different story. But the good thing about getting all these tokens on the go is that it doesn't have that much to steal with Captivating Vampire. They're all flying as well, so he might be more brazen with this because he can't block us anyway. There we go, gaining control of our commander isn't the worst thing. So that would encourage me to just leave the Captivating Vampire alone for now. I think we'll go Arcane Signet. We are taking 2 life to that, unfortunately. And they're going to gain 2 to the Exquisite Blood. And then I think we just get down the Faerie Mastermind at this point because it's just going to passively draw us cards. But we do have to try and get into some real answers against our opponent's board here. Or at least not dying this turn. So they steal our commander, it's still tapped. They obviously haven't built their deck to play on our turn, which is how you would make the maximum use of this. I think I would have stolen the High Fae Trickster personally, because that's what did a lot of damage to them there. Gold and getting tokens off Obira doesn't do too much for us at this point. We go down to 14 to the Bitter Blossom. And we lost life, so our opponent gains life. Okay, Scion of Una. That is going to give us a 1-1 buff. So we've got 9, 12, 16, 17, 18 damage. And that doubled is 36. So that with Albira means that we win, I think. So get down Albira first. And then the Scion of Una. And each opponent loses a life when a Faerie enters to the Albira, so that puts him down to 36. And assuming I've done the maths correctly, we should be able to fly straight over the top here for the victory. Okay, I miscalculated, got them down to 4. We've got the One Ring to consider anyway. I suppose what I could have done was bounce the Cruel Celebrant there with the Brazen Borrower, so that they can't sacrifice their board to try and gain a bunch of life here. But at least they have to do that in order to survive the One Ring. So yeah, sacrificing our commander, which we can't quite afford to play at instant speed, unfortunately. Have to see how much they can get us down by here, because I didn't bother to work it out. If we go for the bounce now, then they can just sacrifice everything at instant speed, so I suppose they might as well, if they're going to sacrifice most of their board, they might as well steal something of ours and sack that. Anyway, they drained for 1, so we get pinged for 1 again off the Exquisite Blood. They're up to 6, so they can survive the One Ring, again not letting it resolve before they draw, so taking 5 damage here. And we are going to draw a card into the Faerie Mastermind, into yet another land. You have to assume that they're just going to aim for veto again here. Yeah, really should have bounced the Cruel Celebrant previously. If they go veto here, then we can bounce Cruel Celebrant in response and see if they want to make some sacrifices. If they don't, we can play our only Faerie at instant speed and get rid of them for that 1 damage. They decided to pay the tax. They can afford the Exquisite Blood here. I don't want to take any more life to Ancient Tomb if I don't have to. And we actually can't afford Brazen Borrower, can we, thanks to the way I've tapped the mana? Yeah, I'll just try playing Brazen Borrower here and see if they allow it. But they should sacrifice at instant speed here. Goofed up the maths on the previous turn clearly and handed my opponent the victory, but I think it was a good one regardless. Oh, okay, there we go. Right, so made up for it in the end anyway. Both of us making errors there, so it was a bit clunky towards the end. He clearly passed priority there when he shouldn't have done to the Albira, but that's why you take your chances. Like I said, I should have worked out the maths a lot more accurately than that, but once I realised I'd made the mistake, I should have just bounced the Cruel Celebrant and let them die to the One Ring, because there would have been no means of them gaining life, or even bounced the sack outlet. But anyhow, it panned out alright in the end regardless. If you enjoyed the revisit to the gameplay videos, then as ever, you must show your support in the comments section, even on Patreon, if you're at all able to. Massive thank you to the few of you who do that already, and I will see you all in the next one. I'm TribalKai. Thank you for watching.